And hey, who's had better first quarters all year than the Niners, right? They lead the NFL in scoring on opening drives, and that's exactly what they're going to need to do. You want to talk about a front runner, Larry? Let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers.
They trailed 3 times this year going into halftime. They lost all 3 of those games.
They are front runners. They are. Kyle Shanahan is. The team is. So they need to get a lead. They need to establish dominance in a game, and they need to take it. Yeah. That's who they are. That's what they do, and they have been well rested enough. They have been set up enough to be who they are and do what they do. So when it comes to opponents, yes, we know the first one. The second remains a mystery. If there is indeed to be a second, there better be a second. Larry, I don't care who shows up. Outside of the 1985 Chicago Bears getting in a time machine, the 49ers better damn well be in the Super Bowl this year. That's the stakes.
Right. And there's there's nothing like, hey, there's nothing ambiguous about any of this. The Niners they've got 9 Pro Bowlers. They're at home. They're rested. They've got their quarterback. They've got the weapons. They've got a really good team in all 3 phases of the game. But all I'm saying is, and this is where the rust thing, they're going to be rested. But if they're rusty and it shows, they could go down. And because you just saw, this game with Dallas was over at halftime. If Green Bay puts another first half together in Santa Clara next week, the way they did yesterday against Dallas, this is going to be the Niners' biggest challenge.
Yeah,
I'll go as far as to say this. I really believe if they can win this game, they can win it all. But this game is going to be very, very challenging from the anthem. And the Niners better be ready. And, it might be one of those things. Kyle, the Niners do one thing that goes against what we've seen, which is Kyle loves to win the coin toss and defer to the second half. But they're a team that absolutely – so they're giving you the ball first. If they get their choice, they're giving you the ball first. Well, if you're Green Bay, you want the ball first because your offense is cooking and you play better from a lead, and you know that the Cowboys didn't play well from behind. And the same thing they could say about the Cowboys, the exact same thing can be said about the Niners. So the Niners defense – I'm not worried about the Niners offense. I think the Niners offense is going to cook. I think they're going to score. I think as long as they take care of the ball, they're going to score and do what they want to do. But I think the Niners offense beats this Green Bay defense. But the big question for me is, can the Niner defense slow down this incredibly hot quarterback with all these good young weapons? Because that's what they are. Every single one of these weapons is a solid weapon. There may not be a Debo or an Ayuk in the bunch. There may not be a Christian McCaffrey or a Kittle, but they've got depth and youth on their side and speed.
The most important 49ers coach this week leading into this game could be Chris Kasurek. That defensive line is going to have to win the game. I'll agree with you there. Jordan Love
probably feel the pressure.
Probably didn't even have his jersey washed yesterday. He was untouched. There was a wide open, clean pocket. I couldn't believe that the Cowboys were just so passive. And
when you can't blitz him, they did blitz him one time, and he found the opening. So, I saw early in one of those touchdowns early on was Cowboys sent a blitz. They picked up the blitz, and Jordan found the right guy. He's really a developed quarterback. So, and he's got mobility, and he's making a lot of good decisions. Nobody's fearing Green Bay, but at the same time, you got to have proper respect, and you better not be rusty because the game could be over at half if you are.
And look, the 49ers are an example of the lightning striking from a you got lucky at quarterback standpoint with Brock Purdy, where this guy who no one expected anything from gets thrown right into the mix due to injury, and he takes off running and really hasn't hit the ground since. The Green Bay Packers, 3 different times in a row now, because let's remember, Brett Favre sat behind Don Majkowski there for a minute. Then, of course, we saw Aaron Rodgers sit behind Brett Favre, and we saw Love then sit behind Rodgers. There is a case to be made that when you got a good quarterback, you just throw him into the fire and see whether or not it's a sink or swim situation. The Packers have gone in the total opposite of that. They've always been patient with their next about to be quarterback, and it looks like it has paid off for them for a third time in a row. Now, I'm not saying that Jordan Love is in the Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre category. He's far, far away from that still. But they've got something when it comes to how they develop quarterbacks on that franchise that has worked for them. I mean, we're in decade number 3 of that plan being a good plan for them, Larry. It's amazing.
Well, it's a solid it's a really solid football organization. I mean, that's one. But they've got a great young personnel guy, and he traded up in the 2020 draft to get Jordan Love out of Utah State, and people ripped him for it when he struggled early. And they've found a way to just develop. You know, the nice thing about playing in Green Bay is you're furthest away from any kind of bright light situation. You can just focus on football.
Right. But I mean, Aaron Rodgers tried to turn that bright light on his own team, and he declared war against Brian Gutekunst, and he took it very public, and it did get a little ugly and messy. But there are, I don't know, enough like football smarts in Wisconsin to where people were like, all right, Aaron, we can sort of see that you're going a little off the deep end in terms of being a good teammate. But then you come back with an MVP caliber season. And whenever you're drafting your quarterback of the future, while your quarterback of the present is having an MVP caliber season, from a front office standpoint, that feels hard to justify. But then when that quarterback moves on and now you got the guy, you know, what's the old Andrew Brandt saying that the single best time to draft your next quarterback is when you don't need one? Because then there's no pressure to take this raw ball of clay and just roll them out on the field to see what you got. And it's worked out for them. I mean, I have a reluctant respect combined with a rivalry's hatred for the Green Bay Packers that has been in me my whole life. And there is a team that could cause a problem for the 49ers coming to town. But I think that the 49ers are uniquely equipped to deal with all these problems and are just the right team to take a young Packers team that, you know, is ahead of schedule and put them back where they belong in the NFL's pecking order. I think the 49ers are going to be at their very best. And maybe the Packers showing up with a threat of scaring the Niners is exactly what the Niners need to sort of jumpstart this playoff run, Larry.
No doubt. They served notice yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't. I mean, first of all, it was 27-7 at half. It was 48-16 in the fourth quarter. This game was not as close as that score indicates. And as far as Jordan Love, I mean, they took a 23-year-old quarterback. He only started one game his rookie year. He didn't start any games in 2022. So he basically had played in 10 games over 2 seasons and had one start and lost that start and had a combined 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions coming into this year. He was a totally unproven entity. What did they do? They gave him the full year. He started all 17 games and went 9-8 in the regular season, 32 touchdowns, 11 picks. But man, if you look at what Gutekunst has done in the last 2 drafts, you say, how did the Packers do this? Well, they traded up for Jordan Love in the 2020 draft. But the 2022 and the 2023 drafts, these last 2 drafts, have been bonanzas. 8 good players in each draft. 2022, Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Zach Tom, their starting tackle, Kingsley Enagbare, the linebacker, Rasheed Walker, another starting tackle. I mean, that's 8, that's 7 right there from the 2022 draft. Then he follows it up this year, and he gets Lucas Van Ness, Luke Musgrave, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, Dontavian Wicks, Carl Brooks, their kicker Anders Carlson, Carrington Valentine, who's playing the corner for them. That's 8. They've gotten 15 players, many of which are starters, just in the last 2 drafts. I mean, you got to credit that young GM, man. He is fantastic, and I think LaFleur is good. I don't think LaFleur is special or anything, but I think he's a solid NFL coach. They got their quarterback. They groomed him perfectly, and man, they have surrounded him with a ton of talent. And they're coming. This may be a year ahead of schedule, and the Niners may slap them around, but they are the team that's building the bonds, the bonanza, the juggernaut that's coming in the NFC.